Nepal saw a lot of protests. In the last few days, and presently Sushila Karki, Chief Justice of Nepal, has been sworn in as the Prime Minister of the interim government, and the Nepal army is in control of the situation. Lot of national property has been damaged, ministers have been bashed up, the parliament broken, five-star hotels broken, vehicles torched, and this has been caused by the Gen Z or the Nepo babies or the Nepo kids. They have fought against nepotism, but they have not understood that they have damaged their own property, which had been built up over a long period of time. But however, this situation was waiting to happen because the politicians, Prachanda, Dubal or KP Oli, who has fled the nation after resignation from his post, were taking turns in making Nepal more and more corrupt. So is it that Nepal could not digest the democracy that came after monarchy was stopped by King Gyanendra? This whole thing happened after a prick which was given when 26 channels of the social media were banned, like YouTube, Facebook and Insta. It is said that they did not register to the requirements of the Nepal government. And these Gen Z people or the young generation say that they were dependent on social media. So let us see the background of the whole problem and what is its effects on India, because this has happened in regular intervals. In Sri Lanka it happened in 2022, last year in Bangladesh, and now in Nepal. So we can also say that maybe forces are behind it, because the Gen Z alone cannot just go to such an extent. So keep watching my video till the end so that you can get a clear analysis of the whole thing. So before we proceed, I will request you to please volunteer for our NGO, which has got a tagline of Right to Education for the Underprivileged, and also purchase something to motivate our artisans who showcase the art of Bengal. So proceeding ahead, I will go into a little details of what exactly happened. And like I said, after the ban on the social media channels, and then there was a little girl who got hit by one of the minister's car, and Oli said that these are minor things that keep happening. Or the children of the rich ministers who were posting their affluent lifestyle on the social media, which was not being liked by many of these people who were not in the favoritism quota but were poor. They were not getting chances, rising unemployment. So I will go through these reasons one by one. And before I begin, I will just go into the history of Nepal and India. In epic ties, Ramayana, or Lord Rama in Ayodhya married goddess Sita, who was from Janakpur, which is supposed to be in Nepal. In the 6th century BC, Magad and Shakya republics spanned both sides of the Indo-Nepal border, and Prince Siddharth, who was later on enlightened as the Buddha, was born in Lumbini, which is again in Nepal, and attained nirvana at Bodh Gaya, which is in India. We've had shared freedom struggles as K.P. Bhattarai, who was born in Varanasi, actively participated in Quit India movement against the British, and in Nepal against the anti-Rana movements. At that time, Banaras served as a key center for anti-Rana activism. Here I would like to say that Shushila Karki and her husband also are students of the Banaras Hindu University, or the BHU. And then in 1860, the Treaty of Sagauli, which is an agreement between the Gurkha chiefs of Nepal and the British Indian government, ended the Anglo-Nepalese War of 1814 to 1816 and paved the way for the Nepali recruitment into the Indian Army, and at that time the British Indian Army. And then in 1950 we have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which granted national treatment for each other's citizen in economic participation, property ownership, trade and residence, and free movement. And here I would like to mention that the Gurkhas, who are one of the fiercest fighters in the world, are being recruited into our army and also the British Army. Though after the Agniveer scheme started, this recruitment has been stalled for some time. So also during this state of unrest which has happened, 13,000 criminals broke the jail and were jailbirds who were moving towards India. And there has been a major security alert because India and Nepal have quite a porous border. Though there are official checkpoints, but then their Nepal army has given these names to the MEA and people are being halted, but then some of them have come into Bihar and West Bengal or have been stopped. So it is a major security concern, and here we have to think that this unrest will have problems for India, though Shushila Karki has got pro-Indian ties, and in the next 6 months she is going to have elections, that is somewhere on the 4th of March next year. So this political instability creates gaps in governance which can be exploited by insurgent groups, cross-border criminals and illicit networks. And the economic impact is that India is Nepal's key trading partner, exporting $7.32 billion worth of goods to Nepal in the financial year 25, while importing about $1.2 billion, giving India a significant trade surplus. During this political crisis, Indian investments and supply chains face uncertainty. Impact on the development and cooperation, where India's high impact community development projects, or the HICDPs, in Nepal, over 473 projects in health, education, electrification, sanitization, play a crucial role in strengthening bilateral ties and fostering positive relations. So this may get halted, and also hydropower and energy cooperation plans which Nepal has with Central India for cross-border electricity trade also may slow down or derail these major hydro projects like the Arun 3, Fukot Karnali and Lower Arun. This affects India's goal of becoming a regional energy hub. Then disturbances to defense and security cooperations, because the joint exercises like Surya Kiran exercises may get halted due to these political crises. And here I would like to mention that Nepal has been eyed by China also. They have tried to make inroads into Nepal by supplying them arms, ammunitions and other projects, like it has done from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, trying to put them into a debt trap. So China has been trying to make inroads into Nepal. But then surrounding India with all these political instabilities, India has to be more vigilant. Though corruption issues are major in Nepal, and there is yet to be seen whether there has been a foreign hand, and also these political unrests will affect our IMEC projects, our India-Myanmar Kaladhan passageway which is being made, and then the Mahakali river projects which are on the way to being completed. And whenever a nation has such political unrest due to unemployment, there can be chances of refugee influx into our country through the porous borders that we have. And these influxes of refugees can create a problem for the NRC or the CAA, which is on the brink of being implemented or is being fought in the parliament or by the political parties. But then political problems will arise because of the influx of these refugees. So here we will have to garner up our internal security, strengthen the borders which are there with the forces that monitor these borders. The Nepal army also has to be strengthened along with the Nepal police, which is right now in the barracks, but then over a period of time it has to come back to do its job. Also, forums like the SAARC and the BIMSTEC have to be garnered up so that any kind of economic problems, refugee influxes can be handled at a level where they can be addressed properly and the refugees can be put together into proper camps so that their movements can be recorded and monitored. And in the meanwhile, we will have to expand our rail port linkages through the initiatives like the BBIN motor vehicle agreement and the Kaladhan multimodal transit project, which are en route. And also the diplomacy of both the countries have to be at such a level that the 1950 Treaty of Friendship and Peace is kept in place and a proper system put up so that peace can come back in Nepal, and then again it is put back on rails. Here India has to be very clear in its thought, because our neighborhood first policy also encompasses Nepal within its folds. These were some of the reasons which may be creating problems for India in its garnering support to Nepal. But then what was the reason exactly for Nepal to go into such a tizzy? It was the systematic governance failure which over the years since the monarchy was handed over, there were years of unmet promises, corruption, opportunistic alliances between the opposition and the ruling parties, which took systematic timing of getting into power and making money. Then the color revolution thesis, where the projects are engineered by external forces, most of the fingers pointing at the US and the US Congress National Endowment for Democracy's funding towards Hami Nepal, which was established in 2014. So here it needs to be seen whether it was just a governance failure or also it was funded by the US, because presently the US is not liking India going up economically, and also US has put tariffs on India, which may be one of the reasons so that India's growth slows down. And basically the mismanagement of the opportunity is like this, that after the new constitution was enacted in Nepal in 2015, there was an immense hope that the broad left would be able to advance the social situation of the Nepalis. So in 2017, the various communist parties won 75% of the seats in the national parliament, and the following year, the large communist parties joined together to form the Nepal Communist Party. And although unity was not very deep, but the parties had their own structures and they had their own agreements put in place. But this united party split in 2021, and since then various left parties have rotated in power, and each of them were having their own agendas. So in 24, when the government in Nepal included a rightist fraction of the left, which was led by Oli, and the other of the Nepali Congress, they thought that the revolution of the 1951 and then the 1990 Jan Andolan, which appeared to be cemented by the 2006 Loktantra Andolan, would come in place, but then it seemed defeated and the long struggle came up in another way. Then secondly was nepotism, because there was favoritism and the affluent people were showcasing their lifestyles. People were unemployed. The governments in line were corrupt, and people had a huge divide between the rich and the poor. And then there is another school of thought which says that maybe monarchy is going to come back in Nepal, because King Gyanendra and others who were abroad in Singapore had come back to Nepal with a great clout and welcome. So these are some of the thesis of the genesis of Nepal's problem. So we will have to see whether Nepal carries on with its democracy or monarchy shows its head back in Nepal. And let us hope Sushila Karki is able to take Nepal back to its stable form, maintains its relation with Nepal, and our neighborhood policy and brotherhood with Nepal grows much more. So keep liking and subscribing to my channel. Share this video so that everybody can know the reason for the unrest in Nepal. Jai Hind.